And a very warm aloha. Welcome to yet again another edition of 5 Questions right here on News Radio 830 KHVH. Also online at khvhradio.com and with our good friends at HawaiiReporter.com. We are delighted to spend some time with a dynamic gentleman who has a lot to say, and we're ready to hear from Wayne Allyn Root. Wayne, aloha to you.
Hey, Rick, aloha, mahalo, and all of that. Great to be with you again. I hope this is going to happen again and again and again. We're starting to be good buddies here.
I love it, and next time I hope we do it in the studio.
Well, that would be great, because I look for any excuse to come to Hawaii.
In our last conversation, we called that you are the de facto Minister of Tourism for us, Wayne.
There we go. Well, don't forget, I live in Las Vegas. Don't you guys call that, what is it, the 8th island or the 9th island? I can't even remember anymore.
It is the 9th island.
The 9th island. There we go. You have 8 islands. The 9th island, everywhere I turn is a Hawaiian friend here in Hawaii. So half your island is relocated to Las Vegas. They love it here, and we love them.
Amen to all of that. Hey, listen, for our friends who haven't had a chance to join us before, would you mind, with question number 1, telling us about yourself and all that you do, please?
Sure. Well, I'm an SOB, son of a butcher, from a little town called Mount Vernon, New York, on the Bronx borderline, and graduated Columbia University, one of the best colleges in the country. And I say that for 2 reasons. Number 1, it was my dad's dream. My dad, the butcher, wanted me to graduate from an Ivy League university, and he preferred Columbia as the Ivy League school of New York. Mm-hmm. And so I made his dream come true, and I think it was my American dream as well. And the other reason is that I was classmates with Barack Obama, your Hawaiian man. Barack, the president, was my classmate, class of 83, Columbia University. But we took very different directions when we both graduated from college. Barack Obama went into government and teaching law and became a community activist, and I became an entrepreneur. I decided I didn't want to be a lawyer. I didn't want to literally sue people that created all the jobs and made all the money. I wanted to be the guy that created all the jobs and made all the money. Mm-hmm. And so I went into entrepreneurship, and since that time I've made, gosh knows how many payrolls and paid for how many thousands of people's health insurance and created how many thousands of jobs and started up so many different businesses and put my own money at risk. And I think that's the kind of person you want in positions of responsibility, making tough decisions about the economy. I don't think we want a Barack Obama who has never made a payroll, never paid anyone else's health insurance, even though he's a big talker about health insurance, never created a job in his life, never invested a dime of his own money in a business, never failed in a business. And by the way, that's important too, Rick. I think the only way to succeed is to fail a few times and learn some lessons. And I think the only guys you want in the White House or in the U.S. Senate making decisions about our country are guys who have failed, picked themselves back up, shown tenacity and relentlessness and determination and commitment, and succeeded from the lessons they learned from those failures. That's how you become a successful entrepreneur, and that's who we should be looking for to run our country. So that's the best way to describe myself. I'm a capitalist evangelist. I love America. I love capitalism. I'm a homeschool dad of 4 young kids, including a 3-year-old and a daughter who's 19 that goes to Harvard, homeschooled to Harvard. And I'm a citizen politician, just like the old founding fathers wanted. I'm not a career politician. My life isn't politics. It's just an interest and a passion of mine. But I'm always going to be a career entrepreneur.
If you'd like to learn more about Wayne and maybe even follow along in our conversation, I recommend that you log on to Root, R-O-O-T, for America.com. And you'll see the most handsome man in all of politics right there on the front page.
I don't know about that, but definitely the most passionate man in all of politics, and one of the, if not the hardest working man in all of politics, definitely the hardest working libertarian in this country. Today, by the way, this will be my 5th interview of the day.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah, that's in one day, and the day is still short. And after I'm done with this interview, I'm actually hosting CBS Radio in Las Vegas, Nevada for afternoon drive time, 3 to 6 p.m. So I'm doing 5 interviews in the same day, hosting 3 hours of radio, and then doing a Skype interview on national radio and TV when I'm done with that 3 to 6 afternoon hosting. So it's been a busy day for me.
Boy, you're like the James Brown of of commentary here. Hardest
I'm working
working
hard,
man.
my friend, and you know why? Because I have kids, and I have that 3-year-old, and I'm worried about their future, and I'm not sure if America's going to make it. And I'm being serious, and I'm not exaggerating, and I'm not being negative. I'm telling you, Rick, that America is on the verge of an economic disaster, and I'm not sure if people in Hawaii understand how bad it's about to get and how bad it really could get, but I believe we're on the verge of a greater depression than the Great Depression of 1929, and it's not all Obama's fault, but it's a large portion his fault, and it's certainly 100% his fault for A, it happening on his watch, and B, his policies made it much, much worse than it ever had to be. But he's not the only person to blame. Just to show you how honest I am and how fair I am, George W. Bush gets plenty of blame. And the Congress gets lots of blame. And every politician in America for the last 50 years gets lots of blame who piled the debt on and didn't think it was a big deal. And everyone who kowtows to the unions has plenty of blame because they're destroying the private sector. So there's lots of blame to go around. But Obama, it's his watch. Truman said it. The buck stops here. Even if he had 10% to do with it and 90% was Bush, if you're a true man, then what you say is the buck stops here. It happened on my watch. I'm to blame, and I'm going to get us out of it. And I believe the American people would love him for it. And instead, I have never seen, I'm going to be rude here, I've never seen such a loser in my entire life who goes on a miserable bus tour spending tens of millions of dollars to try and blame everybody in the world but himself. It's an embarrassment. It should be an embarrassment to every Hawaiian who ever voted for him. It should be an embarrassment to every Democrat. The man does nothing but try and blame everyone in the world but himself.
Talking with Wayne Allyn Root. As a matter of fact, when you touched on one of the questions I had for you a little bit later on, so I'm going to transition over to number 3, and that has to do with the culture that has created what we have today. And by that I mean the transformation of America into ostensibly what appears to be a socialistic stance by this administration. Some people shy away from that word, but tell me, where was this culture born from, especially since you shared higher education with Barack Obama?
Well, it was born in the, he was born in the Ivy Leagues because when I went to Columbia University, Rick, I mean, it was about as liberal, left-wing, socialist, Marxist, communist, whatever word you want to choose. It's funny because everyone is so afraid on the Obama team of the word socialist. But, why should you be afraid of calling a socialist a socialist? They should just be honest, man up, and say, we are socialists, because you look what socialists believe in. They believe in gigantic taxation. They believe in gigantic government spending, and redistribution of wealth. Everything about socialism is the Obama agenda. And it was born long before Columbia University, but it was certainly nurtured at this Ivy League school that I went to, where I was one of the few, if not the only conservative in the whole darn school. There certainly weren't any other Tea Partiers. I realize now I've been a lifelong Tea Partier when I didn't know it. And there was nobody like me at Columbia University. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you how bad it was. Assuming Obama was there, and we yet to find one classmate that I know of who ever met him or ever saw him or ever heard of him, but he claims he was class of '83. If he was there the day the day that Ronald Reagan was shot, we were in a political science class, and Obama says he was pre-law political science major at Columbia. I was pre-law political science major. The biggest class at Columbia that had every political science student in it, about 250 students in a giant theater in the round, and a kid runs in, the door bursts open, the classroom has like 30-foot ceilings. It's like a theater, so it echoes, and he screams, Reagan's been shot. They've assassinated President Reagan. And do you know what the reaction of the class was, Rick?
Don't tell me they cheered.
Oh, not just cheering. How about New Year's Eve? How about a wild celebration? How about jumping up and down with fist pumping and hugging each other, screaming, yes, they killed Reagan?
Oh, my goodness.
And if Obama was there, and he claims he was at Columbia, class of '83, trust me, then he had to be in that class because every political science major was in that class. That's the culture. And when I see my Columbia University magazine every 4 times a year, it comes quarterly, it lists what my classmates are doing all these years later. Well, Rick, almost all of them are either in government or in the media. And they're all lawyers. And this is the problem with America. Lawyers, government, and media. That's the axis of evil right there. Wow. Lawyers, government, and media. And this is where they come from. They were incubated in this environment where they were cheering for the death of a wonderful man for the sin of being a conservative. And so, Obama had a mother that attended communist meetings. He had a father who he basically never saw, who was a communist in Kenya and believed all income should be taken away from people. And his mother had many friends that became like second fathers to him, and they were communists and communist union leaders. He had a hero in Saul Alinsky, who wrote Rules for Radicals, who was a communist. So, it was incubated at Columbia, but it started long before that. But he is very, 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 very extreme left-wing liberal. I would call it socialist. You can call it whatever you want.
I know that when you mentioned media, I want to transition over there. Question number 4. What is your take on the media coverage today? What is the education level of Americans? And is this an irreversible tack that we're on with liberals controlling major mainstream media?
I don't know if it's irreversible, but it doesn't look good. The odds are against us, but yet, you remember, I started out as a Las Vegas odds maker. A lot of people, make fun of that, but I would brag. I would say I'm honored that I was an entrepreneur and a small businessman and a Las Vegas odds maker as opposed to a lawyer. Because lawyers have done in this country. Everybody in Washington's a lawyer. They know nothing about the economy. They know nothing about creating jobs. All they have to do is sue people. So I actually would say I'm honored and thrilled to tell people that I was a Las Vegas odds maker. And as an odds maker, I've seen upsets throughout my life. Teams that have no chance of winning, that are just completely considered a joke with zero chance, 20-point underdogs, and they win the game in a miracle. The amazing Mets, and I don't know, it's happened so many times in history, the American hockey team at the Olympics, and et cetera, et cetera. Miracles happen all the time. So I wouldn't say America is done and it's irreversible. I would say we're in a lot of trouble, and right now we're 20-point underdogs. But if anybody's in more trouble than we are, it's Europe. Europe is dead. Europe is DOA, dead on arrival. They just don't know it yet. They're being propped up with some fake money from their own Fed, their own central banks. But the reality is Europe is just a complete economic basket case that has no chance of survival. I predict the EU, the European Union, will dissolve in the next 2 years, and the euro will be gone, and each country will go back to their own currency after they've defaulted. That's how bad things are in Europe. So when people say Obama's a socialist, he goes, no, I'm not, but he defends himself by saying, no, I just want to kind of move us towards Europe. He says Europe is not socialist. They call it social capitalism. It's a combination of capitalism and socialism. Well, does anybody want what Europe's got? They're bankrupt. The unions own Europe, just like Obama wants the unions to own the teachers and to own government and to own the automakers and to own the steel makers. And hopefully with Karchek, he wants them to own the whole country, even small business. Every country that's ever tried this is bankrupt. I mean, the world would be nice, Rick, if everybody could make $100,000 a year and then retire at age 45 and make a pension of $100,000 a year for the rest of your life without working. So 40 years, at the age of 45, you've worked for like 20 years, and then everybody would love to have 40, 50 years of retirement at $100,000 a year for not working. But that's a fairy tale. I've got like $20 to give you when your tooth falls out, too. I'm the tooth fairy, if you believe in that. I got a bridge to sell you in Brooklyn. Every company in every country that's ever tried giant pensions and allows people to retire at age 40 or 50 is bankrupt. Doesn't work. 70%, 80% taxes on the people that are alive and working to pay for all the freeloaders. So the system doesn't work. Europe is a disaster. It's a basket case. It's bankrupt. It's insolvent. So even if Obama is not a socialist, the country that he models us after, or I should say the continent he models us after, is Europe, and that's a disaster waiting to happen. And mark my words, save this tape. Italy is bankrupt. Greece is bankrupt. Portugal is bankrupt. Spain is bankrupt. Ireland is bankrupt. And soon you're going to find out Britain and France are going to go too. The whole Europe is dominoes going down. So if Hawaiians want America to be like Europe, trust me, you have no idea the nightmare you're letting yourself into. So if we're going to get out of this, we have to aim to run away from the European model, not to embrace it and run towards it.
We have enjoyed our time with Wayne Allyn Root. I'd like to wrap things up finally, Wayne, The Conscience of a Libertarian. It's also subtitled Empowering the Citizen Revolution with God, Guns, Gold, and Tax Cuts. Compelling title. Tell us a few minutes, if you would, about the book and what ideally you'd like to see in America.
Well, I'd like to see a country that replicates the Hong Kong model. Now, the Hong Kong model, Rick, is a flat tax of only 16%. I'd like to see 10%, to be honest with you, because I'm a person. I'm actually a strong, dedicated Christian these days, and I believe that if God only asks in the Bible for a tithe of 10%, why would we give more than 10% to the government? So I'd like to see a flat 10% for this country across the board for individuals and businesses, and Hong Kong has 16% flat and 0% capital gains tax, which means the money you have left that you've earned, you've already paid tax on it. If you want to invest it now in a business or stocks or real estate, it's your money. You shouldn't have to pay any further taxes on it. So 0% capital gains, my gosh, you talk about motivating entrepreneurs like me to start spending thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions, billions of dollars. If you told us we have a flat tax and a 0% capital gains, this economy would turn around on a dime. On a day's notice, it would turn around. And Hong Kong is the proof. They have the best economy in the world, even though 50 years ago they were a struggling country filled with poverty. Today, Hong Kong is the best economy in the whole world with that system, and guess what their unemployment is? 3.5%. Just to give you another example, Singapore has a very low tax rate. It's not flat, but it ranges between 3% and 20%. The highest is 20. Their corporate income tax, most of the levels are in the 2 to 4% range. And you know what their unemployment rate is? 1.5%.
Goodness.
So if you want to know how to run this country, that's how you run it. And my book, The Conscience of a Libertarian, gives you all the examples and then lays out, it's like almost 400 pages long, where 300 pages of it are solutions. Instead of just criticisms of Obama, solutions to save this country. And believe me, it can still be saved, but the odds are against us. We're 20-point underdogs right now.
On that note, everybody log on, learn more about Wayne, and give us the address again, Wayne, please.
Sure, it's Root, R-O-O-T, F-O-R, America.com. And the book is The Conscience of a Libertarian. You can get it at any bookstore or just get it at Amazon.com, but you can read more about it at rootforamerica.com.
Have a great time on the show today. And, Wayne, thanks for taking our call and being back on board with us.
Rick, you know, every time you call, I'm honored to be on with you, and I love the call, and I always come on. So feel free to call me anytime, anywhere, anyplace.
That's a deal, my friend. Thanks so very much, Wayne. Aloha.
Aloha, mahalo.
Bye now.